Hello there everyone, Ashnflash here, and welcome on into my review of The Eternals. And we're also going to talk about later on, you can check out some time codes, spoilers and non-spoilers, mid-credit scenes, end credit scenes if you want to check all that out. As well as, most importantly, since we are a LEGO channel, I'm going to talk about the LEGO sets. And honestly, it's very unique, I think, with this wave of sets, and I'm really excited to talk about it. While I was watching the movie, I was having all these thoughts of all the things that I wanted to say, so I'm really excited to talk about this. So without further ado, let's go. I'll do like a non-spoiler sort of review that I posted on Twitter, and I would say it's a bit of a hot mess. I think that it's very difficult to introduce 10 characters. There's a lot more, really, if you think about it. There's more characters than that introduced. And to kind of give them all time to explain where they've been, what's going on, jumping from flashback to modern times, it was just a bit of a mess. And I don't necessarily know if it really worked, jumping from time period to time period and all that stuff. I personally would have, in some cases, just preferred that they continue the story instead of, oh, we're driving a car and then we're back. Like, it was just kind of weird, honestly. And then at one point as well, they revealed the time that they were set after, or not right away. It was like after the fight scene. So I'm like, did they just? I don't know. I can't. Anyways, the other thing that I'll say this is just kind of the thing that I was thinking during the whole movie was, Marvel really thinks that this is Oscar Best Picture worthy? Out of the 20 plus films or whatever we're at right now, this is the one. I was laughing to myself. I'm like, how? I don't see it. I really don't see it. There are so many other things that I think are better than this for story. Like, for me, like, Shang-Chi was so much better than this. The characters were, you could check out my review for that, but my goodness, that was such a better movie in so many ways. And I don't get how they think that this is the one that they want to push for that. It is 100% going to win Best Costume, probably Best Visuals as well. Mwah, beautiful, beautiful movie, but Best Picture, that's a bold claim, personally. But anyways, spoilers here. I was so surprised by this. There was a lot of twists and turns that I just did not see coming. And again, in my mind, I'm thinking Lego sets. It was really interesting that most of the sets all come with the villain in it. And I was like, that's really great. Like, Icarus being the bad guy. They literally call him that. You could say he's a hero, that he redeemed himself at the end. He realized that he did was wrong. Yeah, he's still the villain. He's still very much the villain. He kicks off the events of pretty much the movie. So it was really fascinating looking at it like that, who I thought was the leader of the team. I didn't even know it was Ajax. I really watched one trailer, maybe a second one, because I wasn't sold on the first. Yeah, I definitely have seen two. And all the performances were amazing, but the twists and turns of, Arisham's also destroying the Earth. And, also the start of it was really interesting, like, kind of almost, it wasn't a Star Wars crawl because it wasn't going into space and towards the back, but it was sort of the same sort of thing where it required us to do all this reading. And I don't know how I feel about that, to be honest. Like, I think it works so well for Star Wars. I think it works so well for, like, maybe setting a time. But to have that much for a movie and a franchise that have told stories so well for so long in beautiful graphics. I'm thinking, like, specifically with Black Panther and how they world build and tell you about that. And it's like, you could have done that here in some sort of Eternals sort of tech. Maybe that was a last minute sort of thing, but they've been working on this movie. It's been delayed for how long? It could have been something other than just words on a screen. I'm sorry. That already kind of turned me off a bit of the movie. I'm like, what is this? It was just very boring. The whole thing was just very boring. It was just like, just get to it already. Just get, you're gonna save the day. I don't really, this person died. Maybe they didn't die because they're invincible sometimes, but not invincible other times. It's like, oh my goodness. That was the other thing, was that they're not invincible. No one here is invincible. They all can be killed normally. And without Ajax, there's no one there to heal them. So, to me, Icarus is gone. He's gone. Specifically, Phastos, he wanted to kill him. Like, the Druig. And also, if I say things wrong, if I say a plot wrong, you know what? just say it once in the comments. I don't need to have 15 comments yelling at me, because I know it's going to happen with Marvel Defenders. Anyways, when it comes to that, like, instead of fighting and punching and doing all these things, just walk up, like, slit his throat. Like, sorry if, maybe that's really graphic or too dark for what I normally talk about here on the channel, but, like, literally, Makari's just punching him left and right. Just, like, grab a sword, start swinging while you're at it. Like, what's the harm? He's not invincible. He's not actually Superman. He just has the heat vision. Maybe he has super strength, but that's it. That was it. He's vulnerable. So I didn't understand that. Like, they had him pinned down, just go and, take care of him. I didn't buy that at all. It really took me out when she just kept punching him, and it just didn't make sense to me. Like, just take a rock, something. I don't know. There's, like, so many characters that I have to talk about. Sprite, I actually really like that analogy that Kingo gave about Sprite being in love with Icarus and relating that to Peter Pan, Wendy, and Tinkerbell. I was like, that, first of all, didn't expect that. I didn't really get that vibe from anything else. Like, I always just thought of it as, like, maybe a big brother sort of thing, like when she was asleep on his shoulder in the car. Like, that's kind of, I never picked up that vibe. That was a great analogy, but I never really got that sort of romantic vibe from, like, there was never any looks, really, I would say, that ever made me think that. But I did really feel for her, and I liked what they did at the end, allowing her to be human. I wonder if she still has her powers as well. But yeah, it just kind of made me think as well with Circe, so she can now maybe sometimes manipulate living things. At one point, something was thrown at her, and she turned them into little birds or butterflies or something. I was like, so she can create life there, and no one's talking about this. Like, before it was like, oh, rose petals or something, but then at one point, like, it was butterflies or birds. At least that's what it looked like to me. They flew away. So I thought that was interesting, that she was turning an inanimate object into a living thing. So that was kind of cool. But yeah, she was great. Icarus was great. Performances were great across the board. I was really shocked by how graphic they got with the sex scene. That did not expect that at all for this sort of movie in Marvel. They haven't really done that. Like, to me, it was, I think back to Iron Man and them just rolling around. Like, that was it. Like, them falling off the bed. That was it for the last 20 plus movies. So for them to go this far and into it, I was not expecting. Also, the question that I had and everyone else had, which they attempted to address in the second trailer, about where have you been for the last hundreds of years, thousands of years, as we find out they've been there for 7,000. Yeah, you didn't answer that, and I still stand by it being a very stupid excuse of Arishem said not to get involved. The whole thing here revolves around you disobeying him, and it was interesting that what set Ajak on her course of rebellion was that they weren't supposed to interfere, and that Thanos wiped out but it wasn't just half the planet. And if there's no one else around to, I almost want to use the word infect, but that's not what it is. It's more of, use them to power as like a battery the new Celestials. So if there's no one around anymore, then you can't do that. So to me, it just didn't make sense. Like, even Arishem should have been like, hey, all the Eternals across all the galaxies, yeah, you know what? I'm going to send you. You're going to go stop. You're going to help the Avengers. You're going to stop, and you're not going to let this happen. And then you're also going to make sure that everyone comes back. So it didn't make sense to me that it still wasn't a valid excuse, but I know it's hard when you're introducing characters into a pre-existing world that's existed for so long. Again, graphically, really great. Like, I really loved the look of the Deviants. They were great. Crow was really interesting as well. He was a pretty weak villain. He didn't really do much. Was he even the villain? He was formed to just be a predator. I don't know. It's weird. Like, they're not really the villains. It was an interesting sort of turnaround of that, and hearing the backstory I thought was really just fascinating to be like, yeah, the Eternals are the bad guys here, and they're still actively doing this and have been doing this for so many years. So I thought that was really, really interesting, and I thought that we were going to see more of like the world builder, whatever that place was called, where all their memories are stored. So I'm assuming that's probably going to be the second one. And if anyone ever dies, you just go and get another Westworld robot and put their memories in there. So I thought that was kind of interesting. I don't know if I really enjoyed them referencing DC with like the Batman and Alfred reference and then Superman as well. It kind of just took me out of it because they've never done that before. And I don't know. It was just kind of weird. You'd think that so many other people would get more, references to other DC things. It felt very forced. And speaking of forced, a lot of the discussions and little references that they were having to the Avengers, it reminded me of like the Netflix and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., where they're just trying to remind the audience, hey, yeah, we're trying to tell our own story, but don't forget, Iron Man and Thor, we will meet up with them maybe at some point. Yep, don't forget, we're in the same universe. Can't forget that. But what else? And speaking of DC, we got a pretty cool Flash versus Superman fight there. So that was pretty fun to see. Makari was awesome. I really enjoyed her performance, like when she thought Druig died, and just even like her abilities, like I thought were really cool, and the way that they did it was really, really awesome. Athena and Gilgamesh were interesting dynamic of maybe she's going crazy or there's some disease she's remembering. I don't know. Someone's gonna yell at me for not understanding that all, but I really loved Kingo. Kingo and Makari were just like some of my favorites. I really enjoyed, like, Kingo stole most of the scenes that he was in. So funny, and I really thought that even just bringing along, and I'm on IMDb here so I can get the name right, Karun, like, that was really funny to have him there as, like, just keeping them grounded and reminding them kind of like who they're fighting for. I thought was a really interesting dynamic there, having him along for the ride. Have forgotten about Kit Harington and Black Knight. Honestly, you know what I'm more interested in to come out of this is maybe we'll get a Black Knight Disney Plus show. I would 100% be interested in that. I think that would probably be the best way. And what if, I'm not sure, like maybe it would just be if Arishem sent more Eternals. Maybe if Thanos didn't win, how would that affect them? Maybe Ajax would have still gone through with the plan. I don't know what they could do with that, but they've talked about doing a what if for that, so we'll have to wait and see. But mid-credits, that was spoiled and plastered everywhere. Not that I particularly cared. It didn't affect me. Like, it's fine. Like, them saying, oh my goodness, Harry Styles in it, and he's Thanos' brother. Like, that was everywhere. Even my mom was like, did you know that Harry Styles was in the movie? And like, they were talking about that on the local like news. Like, that's like, it was just so surprising. Honestly, it was very weird. No one talked about Patton Oswalt. Really cool to see him here. I really enjoyed that. And yeah, MODOK. And of course he was in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. as well. But yeah, it was cool to see him here as Pip the Troll. That is something that exists. Star Fox in the MCU. Also, the end credit was really cool because we were about to kind of hear about, again, I'm just going to keep calling him Kit Harington. It was cool to see him talking about that, and then getting to see the sword as well. And everyone in the reveals, in the reviews for the Eternal sets, everyone's like, where is my Black Knight figure? And, I'm glad they didn't. Like, I mean, it would have been cool, I guess, to have a figure of him. Like, to have a Kit Harington figure, of course, for Game of Thrones fans, but it just, why would you want that? Like, it's just a generic civilian. Like, you could just make a purist of it. But anyways, we're already into Lego talk, I guess. But yeah, it's strange, it's almost a year since we've seen those sets revealed. It was at the end of December. And we're like a month away from that almost. So yeah, really interesting that now we're here, we're watching the movie that was delayed, and then we saw the sets for. So yeah, really crazy. And they did a great job with the sets. It was really interesting. Every single set happens before the Marvel Studios logo comes up, if you think about it. Minus Crow. But every single set, except for Crow, all of them, the deviants, the flying ones, every single figure, and the domo as well, all of those sets, all within the first 5 minutes of the movie. Thought that was really interesting just to note. And to go back and talk about Icarus, it's just interesting that the villain, or I guess a villain from the movie, appears 3 out of the 4 times in the sets. So I think that's really interesting to think about. Like, I don't think that there's any other like movie franchise that you can kind of compare that Lego's done. Maybe Star Wars, but even then, like, you know, Krennic didn't appear in multiple sets, and Snoke and things like that. So yeah, just kind of interesting. And of course, Stormtroopers don't count. But anyways, my point is with Icarus, it's just really interesting that he appeared so many times, and he was the bad guy, which we didn't know. But yeah, I really did enjoy that surprise again. But that figure's trash, absolute garbage. But the rest of them, I really think that they did a great job. And I think that their outfits, sure, could have used arm printing as I was watching it. And then specifically like with the bands or whatever that they were putting around their arms, I thought were really cool. Like, I would have liked some arm printing. But all the figures, again, really cool to have them sort of across the board there. But yeah, that is my review of the Eternals. Long review. There's a lot to say. 10 plus characters, so much to talk about. I'm sure I forgot things and didn't talk about things, but yeah, again, it's because it's kind of a hot mess. I really didn't think that the way that they set things up, especially with the first flashback, I'm like, what's going on here? Did we miss? Did they just assemble off screen and then like, oh, we're 500 BC or whatever it was? So yeah, really, you know, it's not a bad movie, and I just think that it's just fine. Like, I don't think it deserves all the bad ratings that it's getting online, but it's definitely not top tier Marvel. It's not Oscar worthy at all. It's fine. It's just a movie. Anyways, everyone, did you watch the Eternals? What do you think of it? I hope you guys did enjoy this review, and you could check out all my other reviews that we've done so far on the channel for their MCU stuff. But I hope you guys did enjoy the video, and I hope you all have a great day. I will see you all in the next one.